discuss the second part of the relationship and restrictions and the constraint. So let's see what is this. What is the criteria to become a student at Faculty of Technology? Consider this. What is the criteria to become an internal student at Faculty of Technology? First of all, you have to qualify it. You have to get the A-level technology stream and get the highest mark, and then you have to apply. The UGC you will be selected by the UGC to the different campuses, and those who are in the Faculty of Technology, University of Colombo, has been selected from your choices and also the GPA you have taken for the advanced level exam. So register for a degree. After that, you have to register for a degree. According to the specialty, you have to register to the ICT, Information and Communication Technology Department, or else Environment Technology Department, and AT, Agriculture Technology Department, and IAT, Instrumentation and Automation Technology Department. As you know, the Agriculture Technology, Biosystem Technology students can select after they come to the university whether they want to do the environmental technology or agriculture technology. So that is how you have to select your stream. So ICT student, they have no choice like the AT and ET. You have been given the department ICT, that is ICT department. So mandatory and compulsory. What is the student must register in a degree. Those who come to the technology faculty, they have to register. They must register in a degree program. Otherwise, those who are not going to register the degree program will not allow to be the internal student of the faculty. Okay. So restrictions and constraint. So how do we present this information in a database? Must register. That is the restriction. And the constraint. How do we represent this information in a database? So when you develop the database systems or the systems, or simply we can say as the solutions, so we have to have these types of questions to answer. So how do we present this information in the database? So the student must be registered in a degree, and here you can see the student must register in a degree. If a student has been selected to the FOT, Faculty of Technology, he or she must register in a course. So then you can see the student and register relationship is double line, and course is single line. The double line and single line. If a person is a student who is in a FOT faculty, must register in a course. Those who are not going to register cannot be the internal student. So the participating constraint specifies whether the existence of an entity depends on its being related to another entity via the relationship type. So you can understand very clearly what is this participating constraint. This specifies whether the existence of an entity, for an example, the student entity represent all the student in that batch. depends on its being related. So they must register to another entity via the relationship type. So using this relationship type, they have to register. So for an example, let's get a simple example. If it specifies that employee must always work for a department. So if you are recruited to a company, you must be given a department to work. Otherwise, when you get the employees of the company, each and every employer is attached to a certain department. Okay. So when we say that the relationship works in is a total participation for an employee entity in the department entry. Forget this one, employee as well as department. Employee works in a finance department. Nimal works in production department. Kamal works in accounts department. So employee must work in a department. So you can see the must is given in the double line. And department may or may not have employees. So you sometimes there may have some departments which may not have any employer due to several reasons. Sometimes you know that our earlier also ICT department did not have any lecturers or senior lecturers. With the establishment of this department, no one was there. So this is called the double line called the total participation and single line called the partial participation. If the relationship is not total participation, if the relationship is not the total participation, then it's known as the partial participation. That because they may have or may not have. Get this example. Department to employees. Department may or may not have employees. Department may or may not have employees. So you can understand this participation constraint. Student is registered course. Student is taking classes. Relationships typically labeled as verbs or main aggregation of types. So you can see this one. This is total participation. Student is registered in a course. The student, if he registered in a course, he must take the classes. When you get the class, sometimes they may have student or not. For an example, the subjects, get the elective subject. Elective subject means that is not the compulsory from the subject list. You can select the subject for the fulfillment of the degree program. You will be given a certain set of subject as electives and you can select one to do. When that elective subject sets, sometimes there may have some subjects that no one is going to register for that course due to several reasons. The demand of the subject, but there may have some subject which may have high demand. If we limit that, if we limit the number of student for that course, so the student always request us to, and they want to register those courses, so that when you get the classes, student may or may not have the classes. So constrain student. Then another thing you have to understand, the weak entity. What is this weak entity? Parent employed. So consider that your father is working in a certain company a certain department of a company. So the company provides the medical insurance for your family, not only for your father, but also the children's and the mother, children's, if they are less than 18 years old, they are eligible to get the insurance. In such case, the children and father and children relationship, the father is registered in the company database, and father has an employee number, and also he has a department to work. But for the insurance purposes, they want to register the family, the children, those who are less than 18 years old, and also the wives. So these children and wives may not have a direct relationship with the company. That relationships comes from through the father. So the parents, those children and the wife is the weak entity. That means there is no any direct relationship with the company. The relationships, they have a relationship through the father. So parents employ, yes, does the employee cover the children's medical insurance? How do you claim for the medical bill? So then the father can claim the medical bills of the children and the family if because he has entered to a medical scheme. So how do you claim your medical bills? Can you get the reimbursed or the through your parents? Yes, it is the same coverage given to the children after resignation. So after working certain time, he is going to resign from the company. He is going to resign from the company, and he has been found a good job in a different company. When he resigned from the company, the relationship between the employee and the company will be disconnected. Or in such case, after resigning from the company, the family cannot get the medical facilities from that company. If the new company has that facility once again, so they can get. So is the same coverage given to the children after resignation? No, cannot get that coverage from that company. Here the weak entity, this is the strong entity, and employee covers dependents. Employee, actually the employee attributes are there: employee ID, name, address, telephone number, everything is there. And also dependent is not the partial entity. Here you can see double line, total participation with this employee. Dependent name, age, and if there are few dependent, you can see you have to enter these dependent. This is called the weak entity. So this is the if you want to get the dependent of this employee, the details of the dependent of the employees through this primary key, all the dependents of the employee can be retrieved. So some entities cannot exist on its own. So when you consider this one, when you consider this, the previous one, when you consider this, if the employee resign from the company, you cannot have a relationship with the company. The company relationships always come from the employer. And some entities cannot exist its own. Its existence depend on another entity. You can see the existence of the certain entity, that is employee. The dependent is completely depend on that entity. It cannot exist without entity with which it has a relationship. So always the weak entity has the total participation for the for that entity. It inherits the part of the primary key from the entity which is related, as well as entity type without any attribute is called the weak entity type. When you consider this one, the second one, it inherits the part of the primary key from the entity to which it's related. So the primary key of this weak entity is a part of this employee's ID and a certain key, that is, this is called the partial key. If you want to retrieve this person, so you have to give the employee ID with the name as a key. Okay. So the attributes is the weak entity participating in the key are called the partial key. So you have to keep this in your mind. The weak entities may not have the primary key. Always they have the partial key. So they have to use the key with the principal entity, that is employee, primary key plus the partial key. The owner entity and the weak entity participates in identifying relationships. The relationship is called the identifying relationship. The cardinality of the identifying relationship is 1-to-1 or 1-to-many. So 1-to-1 or 1-to-many. If he has only wife without the children, that is 1-to-1. If he has not only the wife but 2 children, so 1-to-many. The weak entity must have total participation in identifying relationship, so that the weak entity as completely depend on that identifying entity, it must have a total participation, like here, total participation here in this. Okay, let's see the next one. Weak entity, here is another example for the weak entity. ATM facilitates the transactions, transaction number, amount and type. ATM facilitates. Another one, actually, when you see the weak entity, you can see weak entity is given like this, and also the participating relationships also use the thin line or the double line to indicate that is participation entity of the weak entity. The recursive relationships. So you have to understand the recursive. What is the word recursive? Recursive means interactive, do the same thing as a loop. Have you found your project groups? What is the structure? Leader and members. You have done a mini project, or now you are doing the mini project sometimes. So then you have a leader of your group and also the members, leader and the members. And here leader also a member, leader also a member of your group. You have selected the leader among your members. You have selected the leader from your members, completely not an external person. You selected the leader also in your member list. And in the meantime, the leader also the member as well as he do as the leader and provide the leadership for the group, and also he is the member. So the both leader and the member are the student. Both leader and the member are the student, and student leads student, and because the leader also the student and the member also the student. In such case, we can find this relationship as, this is actually wrong. We can't find the relationship like that, because the leader is the student and the members are the student. Leader play a different role within the group as the leader. In such case, we can write this relationship as this one: leader and student. Leader leads the group as well as he is a member of the group. So student leads set of students in a group assignment. So you can see when you get the mini projects, you can act as like this, so that the ER diagram can be given like this, because leader and the members are the student, both are same. But when you get the previous examples like this, previous examples here, employee and department, those are not same entities. So recursive relationship, let's see once, let's try to understand more about this recursive relationship. Entities participating in relationships need not to be distinct. Such relationships are called recursive relationships. Need not to be distinct. So that's why student, not like the employee department. So such relationships are called recursive relationship. Each entity in a relationship play a role. Each entity, when you get the student in a project, they have to play a certain role, as well as the student who is going to lead that group also may have a different role, that means leads the group. It is recommended to state the whole in the recursive relationship, so that you can understand most of the time the recursive relationships comes with the similar entities, same entities, so that you have to understand how you give the recursive relationships in your ER diagram. So recursive relationships, more about the recursive relationship. In the most companies, each employee except the CEO is supervised by one manager. You know, the head of the department get the department, head of the department, he is a senior lecturer and manage the lecturers. That both are the lecturer manage the lecturer. In such case, you can give the recursive relationship. In this example, most companies, each employee except the CEO is supervised by one manager. Of course, not all employees are managers. You know that one manager is there, the production manager. He is an employer. So here, manager supervise employees. Manager is also an employee in the company. Manager has the employee number, name, salary, job title, as well as the employees also has the same attributes: employee number, name, salary, and job title. So in such case, we can write like this: employees supervise, actually one relationship as manager, and also he is an employee and subordinates another part. Okay. Likewise, you can understand how recursive relationships are used in your ER diagram. So this is your turn. Employers works in a department. Each department is managed by an employee. A child must be identified uniquely by the name when the parent, who is an employer, assumes that only parent works for the company is known. So we are not interested about the child once the parents leave the company. So then you can understand the relationship with the parent and the child, whether it is strong or the weak. And draw the ER diagram for above scenario. The company database needs to store the information about employees by NIC, salary, position, telephone number, and office. Department identified by department number with the department name and the annual budget. Children of the employee with name and age of the as attributes. So yes, I will give you few minutes time. I will give 5 minutes time. So please do, because as I told you the last week, this is an interactive session. We have to do the activities in the class also. So I will give you a few minutes time. Please do this exercise. Then I will explain and go to the next part, min and max. This is the exercise that I gave you. The employee works in a department. Each department is managed by an employee. A child must be identified uniquely by name. Then when the patient who is an employee assume that only one parent works for a company is known, then we are not interested in about the child once the parent leaves the company, so that you can understand the weak entity of the child and the parents. Draw the ER diagram for above scenario. If you have drawn this ER diagram, then I just sketch this one. The employee works in department. I didn't put the attributes of that. The employee has these attributes: NIC, salary, position, phone, and office address. That is the department employee. The department identifies by department number, department name, and the annual budget. Child can identify the name and age, so I didn't put this one. The employee works in department, so employee has the dependents, that is child, and employee is the manage the department, so supervise the subordinate and also manage. This is the recursive one.
Sir,
Yes.
can you please share the screen, please?
Okay, please wait a minute. I will share. Sorry, I haven't shared the screen. Now I think you can see. Yes, here I sketch that one like this. Sorry. So employee works in a department, and I didn't put the attributes. Employee supervise each department has a manager, so manage the subordinates, but he is also an employee, and also employee has dependents, depends the child. So employee has the employee ID, salary, department, likewise attribute. I did not put the attribute. This is the simple sketch of that previous example. Okay, so I think you will complete this one later. Let's see. alternate notation. Instead of the one to one, one to many, and many to many, we can use the alternate notations, that is min and max, used to specify the number of possible occurrence of each participating entity type in a relationship. Normally contain the min and max. For an example, 0, 1. 0 is the minimum, 1 is the maximum. Max for a multiple range denotes the cardinality. Multiple range denote the cardinality. Min of the range denote the participation constraint. Minimum of the range denotes the participation constraint, and max of multiplicity range denotes the cardinality. Let's see how to denote the min max value. Employee, using this min max notation, we can write the employee manage department. Employee manage the department. So 0, 1 and 1, 1. Employee manage department, that is 1 and 1. Employee may or may not manage a department. Employee may or may not manage the department. So that's why 0, 1. He can at most manage one department. Department must be managed by an employee. Department must be managed by an employee. That is 1 and 1. Let's see 1, 1 and 0, n. The employee must work for a department. If it is employee, he must work in a department, so that 1 and 1. And department may or may not have employees. That is, the department may or may not have 0, n. Minimum value 0 and maximum value, this is if he works, that is 1 and employee must have a department, that is 1 and 1. Second one is employee, department may or may not have employees. The minimum value is 0, or may not have is 0, may is 8. So here you can see 1 and 1 represent the total participation. This is 0, 1 represent the partial participation. The total participation, employee must work for a department. When you get this one here, this is 1 and 1, that is total participation, 0 and 1. If there is an employee, he is sometimes he will be the manager or he may not be the manager. If he may not be the manager, he is just employee. So that is by 0 and 1. That is the partial and this is the total. Always 1, 1 represent the total participation. Enhance ER model. Actually, we are not we have to discuss this enhance ER model not here in so then enhance and ER modeling, actually we will discuss in the DBMS 2 class in detail. ER modeling does not capture all the semantics of the client's domain, such as is a relationship or specialization, generalization. So don't worry about this one, because you can get the broad understanding about the enhanced entity relationship modeling in the next year. first semester also you have the continuation of this DBMS 1, that is DBMS 2. Then in that time I will discuss this enhanced modeling in detail. Enhanced ER models represent the above relationship, therefore capture client's domain more comprehensively. For an example, the manager entity types is a sub-entity type of staff entity. So don't worry about it. You will be able to understand in the DBMS 2. So enhanced modeling, actually I am not going to explain here once again, because I will going to explain in the next lesson. And here just to show this one is a relationship or specialization generalization. We can give like this: diagrammatic relationship of is a relationship, specialization generalization indicator, staff, hourly employee and contract. When you consider the company, there may have some different types of staff, permanent staff, as well as contract, those who are not the permanent, the contract basis, as well as hourly employed also. But all those are staff. Staff has two variations: hourly employed and the contract employees. So these position name and staff number can be seen as hourly employees as well as contract employees, so that we can staff is a hourly employed or a contract employee. This is specialization and generalization indicator. So then you can understand very clearly in the next class. So both hourly employees and the contract employees being to the type of staff. So that's all for the fourth lecture actually.